if you could learn anything super fast? What if you could learn a new language in just 1 hour, a new software in just 10 minutes, or even learn how to play an instrument in just 1 day? This might sound like a fantasy, but it's actually a reality for some people. And today I want to share with you what they know that most people don't. Now, I don't claim that I can learn anything super fast, but I do think that I'm pretty good at learning things fast. And the reason why I've been able to do that is because of this guy right here. Robert. Robert is a retired Special Forces officer and the founder of a company. I first heard about him from his TED Talk, where he talks about how he and his team were able to teach soldiers complex tasks that would normally take months to learn in just 90 days. And since then, I've been studying his methods and I've applied them to my own life, and it has been a game changer. So here are the 3 things that he and his team did that made me realize how I was wasting my time when I was trying to learn new things. No. 1. Deliberate practice makes you slow down and focus. In deliberate practice, you start out by breaking down the skill into small chunks, and then you practice one chunk at a time until you get it right. Then you move on to the next chunk. It's a very slow and tedious process, but it works. An example of this is learning the piano. Instead of learning songs with both hands at the same time, you start by learning with just your right hand, and once you get it right, you repeat it with your left hand. Then you put both hands together and voila, you have learned a new song. The problem is that most people don't do deliberate practice. They do what Robert calls undeliberate practice. So for example, instead of sitting down and practicing scales and chords, which is deliberate practice, most people would rather sit down and play their favorite songs over and over again, which is not only boring, but also doesn't help you improve. Now that's called deliberate practice. So if you want to learn anything fast, make sure that you don't fall into the trap of doing undeliberate practice. Instead, break things down and focus on one thing at a time. Number 2, you should go from general to specific. Another mistake that most people make when learning something new is that they try to go from specific to general. Let me explain. Let's say you want to learn how to cook. Most people will start by looking up recipes online. They find a recipe that looks good, and then they try to cook that dish. And often they end up failing because they don't understand the underlying principles of cooking. So they don't know why the recipe calls for certain ingredients or techniques. So when they try to apply the recipe to other dishes, they fail. Now imagine if instead of jumping straight into recipes, you took a class on cooking fundamentals. You would learn about different ingredients and techniques and why and when to use them. So when you go back home and look up a recipe, you will be able to understand the recipe better and therefore be able to cook the dish better. This is exactly what Robert and his team did with soldiers. For example, instead of teaching soldiers how to operate a specific piece of equipment, they would first teach them the fundamentals of mechanics. Then they would teach them how to use specific tools, and finally, they would teach them how to use that equipment. And guess what? This made soldiers learn complex skills in record time. So remember that, when you are learning something new, it's important to start with the general principles before moving to the specifics. No. 3. Build a learning habit. If you really want to learn how to learn fast, the key is to build a daily habit of learning. When I was in college, I spent hours every day reading books and articles and trying to learn as much as I could. And although it felt good to learn a lot every day, I wasn't really retaining any of that information. And that's when I discovered the power of spaced repetition with active recall. I started using this method and it completely changed my learning. I was able to learn more in less time, and I was actually able to retain that information for years to come. I recently made a video explaining this in detail. It's one of the most important videos I've ever made. So please watch it! Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you found it helpful. If you did, please let me know in the comments below. I would love to hear what you thought. And if you want to keep watching, I highly recommend this video on how to stop being a perfectionist and start being productive. I think you'll really like it.